Have you ever been on your phone for a really long time and you get lost in it, and then when you come back, you almost feel groggy, like you're drunk because you've been on
Yes.
your phone so long, and they're all like, "Yes, that's crazy. I feel that way." It's because you got
Yeah.
completely disconnected from your body, completely disconnected from reality, and so that's what's happening to kids constantly. They're doing that till 3 o'clock in the morning, and then not taking care of, not getting enough sleep, not eating healthy food, not drinking enough water, all those different types of things. And like, if we don't sleep, we die.
What's up, 418 fam? Welcome to People You Should Know, where we are talking to people that we believe are going to help you love God passionately and live your faith boldly. I'm Joshua, and today we've got a solid guest. And I say that because that's the feeling I get when talking to him and seeing his content. It's just solidness, depth, grounded in his faith, committed to passing it to the next generation. He's the CEO of Reframe Youth, an organization that's reshaping youth ministry with curriculum rooted in the urban context. But that's just one side of his story. He's a devoted family man. He's married to his wife, Katie, for a decade and a proud father of 3. He's a licensed therapist in Arizona, specializing in adolescent issues and marital counseling. And he loves soccer. Without further ado and any more yapping, Jordan Francis is on today. Let's get it. All right, y'all. I am here with Jordan Francis again. He is the CEO of Reframe Youth, and we're just gonna talk. We're gonna talk about
Let's
what's
do it,
going
bro.
on in this generation. We're gonna talk about how it impacts you. We're going to talk about the gospel and your presentation of the gospel and the reception of the gospel and how you live that out. So, Jordan, thanks so much for coming on today, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, glad to be here, bro. Thanks for having me.
For sure, for sure. So, I was looking at your bio and whatnot, and soccer.
Yes, sir.
That's okay.
The real football. You know what I'm saying? Like,
He came with the real football.
hey, not
Okay,
that, not
tell
that
me.
hand egg stuff. You know what I'm saying? Not that hand egg stuff. The real football. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So, where are you from?
I mean, originally I'm from Birmingham, England. That's where I was born and raised. So
Okay.
I moved to America when I was 18. Played soccer in college, and that's actually how I became a Christian. My sophomore year in college, became a believer and felt called to ministry a few months later. So, before that, soccer or football, as we say, was my religion. You know what I mean? So,
Okay.
mm-hmm.
So it's coming clear now. It's becoming clear.
Mm-hmm.
It said soccer, and I was like, man, I don't see a lot of brothers playing soccer. I mean, not in America, not in America, but
Hey,
other
we
places.
out, we
Yeah,
out there, we out there in the other parts of the world. You know what I'm saying?
exactly. Oh yeah,
I mean,
mostly.
here's the reality, right? So, the Super Bowl, about 100 million people watch the Super Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
Champions League final. Not sure if you're familiar with what the UEFA Champions League is.
Okay.
300 million people watch the UEFA Champions League final. And then the World Cup final, 700 million people watch the World Cup final. So, just to put it in context, know your place. Okay, Americans, know your place.
I do want to also mention that whoever wins the Super Bowl is the world champion of.
Yeah, y'all gotta chill. Y'all gotta chill with that, bro. It's so crazy. Like, NBA world champion, baseball
Exactly.
world champion. I'm like, only in America, dog. Only in
Yeah,
America can people be saying that. It's
yeah. But
hilarious.
look, even for the NBA, at least they got Toronto. They got Toronto in there. You know.
Cut it out. Cut it out, bro. Cut it out. Cut it out.
Oh man.
Hey,
So
The NBA is a European league now, anyway. So,
oh yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. But even with we'll say this for you, American football.
mhm.
Even with that, I mean, they played some games over in, was it England or Germany or something like that this past year?
Germany, the UK, they played a game in
Yeah,
Brazil. It's becoming a global
they
game for
trying to do
sure.
something. They trying to do.
hmm
You see, they're trying to put flag football in the Olympics.
Yeah, now it's a high school sport too. So I think
Yeah,
girls
I'm not
flag
sure how I
football is a
feel
high
about
school
it.
sport now. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see how it evolves.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know that I want to watch flag football in the Olympics. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, I'm
Watching
not
it,
gonna watch it.
it would. I mean, I feel like it may be similar to when they put breakdancing in the Olympics. Like it may have that.
Yeah, it's
That was another mistake I think they
one
made. I
and
was like,
done. Yeah,
guys,
probably.
I was like, keep it in the streets, bro. Just keep it in the streets. Let it be a thing. Um, But okay, so you got Reframe Youth. Tell
Hmm.
us a little bit about your passion with Reframe Youth, and then I want to talk a little bit about mental health, just for a few minutes.
Yeah, for sure. So Reframe Youth is a passion project that's very much developing into a legitimate business, which is really cool. Reframe Youth kind of starts out of this relationship we had through a nonprofit called Real Talk that we started, and we were doing open forum conversations in public high schools around culturally relevant topics and sharing the gospel. And so seeing a bunch of fruit in that, having crazy conversations with young people, abortion, drugs, sex, pornography,
All of it.
LGBTQ stuff, like all the stuff you ain't supposed to talk about in schools, that's what we was talking about. And
Okay.
so what we found was you could actually have these conversations with young people in a non-judgmental, non-confrontational way that was fruitful and actually brought around real opportunities for kids to consider the gospel. And out of
Let's
that,
go.
we had a lot of friends who were like, yo, you guys should create content and resources. And, I'm a practitioner, right? So I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to be on the ground. I want to be doing the work. I want to be with the young people. And so after years of kind of being pressed on that issue, I kind of decided to jump out in faith and start Reframe. And so Reframe is like our um, expression of having those conversations, engaging with kids in the urban context, and specifically trying to create content and resources that actually first apply to the urban context, like the cities of our country, and then bleed out to everywhere else
Yeah.
secondarily. And so we wanted to talk about things that we think are going on in those spaces and then lean into that even more. I'm really excited about some things that we're working on this year that I think are just going to continue to add more to the space in terms of um, content and resources that we believe are missing that are valuable to the church at large. So,
Yeah, I love that. I love that. When we talked on the phone, I was like, man, this is definitely something that is necessary. And I want to get back to that. Mental health. You are, as you said, you're a practitioner,
mhm.
and so you do adolescent and family counseling. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Licensed
Okay.
therapist in the state of Arizona. So yeah, that's interesting, kind of navigating that, moving to another state, getting licensed in both states, all those different types of things. But yeah, practicing therapist. That is correct.
Okay. So as we're talking about that in the context of Christianity of this generation, what do you feel like right now is negatively impacting? What do I would say maybe top one, top two things that are negatively impacting this generation's mental health currently?
Yeah, if I was gonna go two things off the top of my head, first one would be social media / technology.
Okay.
So the way that they're interacting online. And the second one would be tied to it, which is a lack of social interaction. So there's um, the digital space that they're living in. They're disconnecting from the real world to go into the digital world, creating an alternate world. And then in that world, they're inherently and implicitly and explicitly, to be honest, learning that the world they live in is evil. So they want to spend less time in the world that they live in, more time in the digital world, which is disconnecting them from themselves, their physical bodies, which God created us to live in, and also disconnecting them from relationships in the physical world. So I think it's like this massive spiral that's interconnected that continues to grow anxiety, grow depression, um, and have our kids in a place where they feel lonely and isolated and disconnected in ways that they never have before, even though they're more connected than ever.
Okay, so and since Reframe is all about, all right, we're taking these topics that we're really talking about and whatnot. Do you think that what you were talking about, um they're withdrawing, they don't want to be connected to the real world. How much do you think that is affecting this new push with like transgenderism, the the furry movement? I don't want to say it's a movement, but this
Yeah, I
this
mean, it kind of is low
trend.
key.
Like how much do you think, and why do you think that's impacting those areas?
Yeah, I think it comes back down to this disconnection with the body, right? So kids are disconnected with themselves, and so I think the solutions that we give for those feelings are very different than the solutions we gave 10 or 20 years ago. You know what I'm saying? The solutions
Yeah.
our parents gave us was, yo, take your butt outside and go run around. You know what I'm
Uh-huh.
saying? The solutions we're presenting now is, well, maybe you are in the wrong body. Maybe, you know what I'm saying, something's wrong with the body that you're in. Maybe it's because of your sexuality, right? And so we're presenting different answers to the same questions, in my opinion. But I think at the center of it is this confusion that young people experience, period. Like I remember going through the years of trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted to do and what my life was supposed to be about. It's an incredibly confusing, challenging time. And
Yeah.
I would imagine that if I had some people around me that I trusted telling me that, hey, because I have these certain feelings, it actually points in this particular direction, I might end up going in similar directions, right? And so I think it's all of those things interconnected. And I think ultimately at the core of it, right, is this disconnection, this lack of connection with God, right? This lack of connection with the creator, the person who designed you, loves you, actually has a purpose and a plan for you and knows why you were put here, right? What specifically you have to offer to existence, creation itself. That
Yeah.
information comes from God, right? We need him to reveal that to us. And so if we're not getting it from him, it makes logical sense that young people are going to go to alternate places to try and find that information. And
Yeah.
so, now at the whim of an algorithm, right, or whatever they get into. And I mean, it's just this. I mean, I'm sure you've been on social media before. You're just scrolling through whatever, kind of harmlessly. Something comes up on your feed that you've never seen before. It intrigues you, so you look at it, and then next thing you know, the algorithm is feeding you all of that
Yeah.
stuff, right?
The algorithm.
And so once again, once again, I'm not trying to say like, well, it's all the algorithm's fault. At the end of the day, you're the one who looked at the thing, and the algorithm's job is to keep you there as long as possible. So it's going to feed you what it thinks is going to keep you there. But I think once again, young person's in a confused place, trying to figure it out, scrolling through their Instagram, maybe asking questions, or maybe they talk to one of their friends and their friend says, hey, well, maybe it's because you're this. And then next thing you know, they're researching that, which a lot of young people do. They just go research stuff harmlessly. And then you get sucked into a world that now is essentially like feeding you propaganda to kind of
Yeah.
conform your worldview to believing that this is who I am and this is the way that I should live.
For sure. What would you say would be the top 3 things? Like if you say these are 3 things as a teenager, as a young adult right now, these things are going to help you the most to have mental stability, mental health, process the world correctly. What say top 3 you would throw out there?
4 things that I tell anybody who's having anxiety or depression issues. And here's the reality, right? I think it's important to say this. Anxiety and depression aren't necessarily always bad. And here's what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
If I am standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon and I have anxiety, it's good that I have anxiety. Because if I fall off the edge of the Grand Canyon, I'm going to meet Jesus. I'm outie. So it's good at that moment in time that I experience an anxiousness that tells me you're in danger, because I actually am.
Yeah.
But if I go home and stand on a stool in my pantry and experience the same anxiety I did on the edge of the Grand Canyon, something has gone wrong. So the issue is things get out of order, right? Which is interesting because we know that like Christ restores order, right?
Yeah.
The Bible restores order. God brings order to creation in the beginning, right? That's what he does. And so I think it's important to recognize that it isn't always bad. Like if my mom dies, I'm probably going to be sad. Dare I say,
Yeah.
have some depressive symptoms. You know what I'm saying? So it's not silly that I would experience that in that moment. But when things get out of order, I start to get anxious and depressed about things that I wouldn't usually get anxious and depressed about. And so I think a helpful way to distinguish is 4 things. Number 1, are you eating healthy meals? Are you eating a balanced diet? Number 2, are you getting enough sleep? Not too much, not too little. Number 3, are you drinking water every day? And number 4, are you moving your body every day? Exercise. And obviously everybody doesn't love to work out, but you can go for walks, you can go for jogs, you can do different types of things that you enjoy doing. You can ride a bike or whatever that just moves your body every day, burns some calories, keeps you flexible, all those different types of things. So if
Yeah.
you're doing those 4 things, chances are your mental health is going to be solid. Unless there's something else going on that causes you to be in a place where there's some kind of significant mental health challenge that might be diagnosable. For most
Sure.
people, if they do those 4 things, they'll be fine. The problem is with most of our teenagers, they're not doing one of those things. They're
Yeah.
not sleeping. They're not eating good food. They're not drinking water. And unless you're playing a sport, you're probably not working out. And so as a consequence, you wrap all those things together. You spend all your time on your phone. And of course, kids are going to be anxious. I remember I was
Yeah.
at camp a couple weeks ago and I asked the students like, yo, Have you ever been on your phone for a really long time and you get lost in it? And then when you come back, you almost feel groggy, like you're drunk because you've been on
Yes.
your phone so long. And they're all like, yes, that's crazy. I feel that way. It's because you're not
Yeah.
completely disconnected from your body, completely disconnected from reality. And so that's what's happening to kids constantly. They're doing that till 3 o'clock in the morning and then not taking care of, not getting enough sleep, not eating healthy food, not drinking enough water, all those different types of things. And like, if we don't sleep, we die. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you
Hmm.
don't sleep, you literally die. Your body can't survive unless you sleep. So just simple things like that would actually drastically improve our mental capacity and our emotional functioning.
That's good. How much does the ability to process life realistically come into play here? Because I see, uh, you said if somebody in your family dies, right, you're going to experience some sad and even depressive,
Hmm.
symptoms. How much do you think we are, dare I say, misdiagnosing ourselves with a life situation and then saying we have, like, how far does that come into play?
I think self diagnosis is a major problem for sure. And I think that's part of the corrective that we've got to give. And I think here's the challenging thing as youth pastors, youth leaders, right? Like, we have to wear multiple hats.
Uh-huh.
And so, like, unfortunately, you get dragged into things as a youth leader that you probably don't want to get dragged into it. I think the mental health conversation is one of them. And so I
For
think we
sure.
have to be able to navigate it. We have to have enough knowledge to like navigate the conversation well. You get what I'm saying? And know when to hand it
Uh-huh.
off. And so I think in this conversation, it's really important for us to know when to talk, when not to talk, and all those different types of things. Um, what was your question again? I'm trying to think about exactly what you
Yeah,
asked me.
so I'm trying to say, like, how would somebody, let me switch it around. How would a teenager, they're feeling what they would say depressed, or they're
Yep.
feeling anxious, right? What are some things they can do right now to go, like, all right, how big a thing is this? How small a thing is this? Am I really depressed, or am I just sad? Am I, you know what I mean? What kind of things
Okay.
can
Yeah.
they
Yeah. Yeah.
do
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
to
Okay.
help
Got you.
themselves out?
So there's two things that I always like to tell people in this regard: duration and degree. So duration is how long has a thing been happening, and then degree is how significant is it. And so if it's impairing your ability to function, whether it be work, school, relationships, like whatever it is, it's significant enough to like affect the way you do those things, then you should evaluate it. And I would say duration or degree. So duration is it's been happening for 90 days or longer. So sometimes those things correct themselves. Like I said, you're having an anxious period because something legitimate's happened in your life, or you're sad because something legitimately happened. But like there's a process that you naturally go through to move through that, right? Or degree is it is acutely onset. So one day you're fine, the next day you can't get out of bed. You don't want
Mhm.
to eat. You can't sleep, right? So um if that's happening, then in both of those cases, I would say go seek some professional help to help you navigate that situation. But
Yeah.
if it's not that, then I think you might just be having some natural experiences that happen for all of us, right? Emotionally, and you have the support of your community, you have the support of your family and your friends. Be open and honest about it. Be vulnerable. Talk to people about what you're feeling, and kind of move through those emotions naturally, like most people would.
Yeah. I think that's part of the lie that we've kind of bought into, is that if I'm not happy, something's wrong. If life isn't good or easy, something's wrong. So then as soon as we have a negative feeling, as soon as something hard happens and we emotionally respond to it, we're like, life is horrible. I'm depressed. I'm anxious. I need to be on medication. I need to be on this. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You just lost three of your best friends because you got in an argument, and now you have no friends. You're by yourself for,
Mhm.
whatever. And it's like, yeah, you're upset. Yeah, you're
You
anxious
should
because
be.
you're not sure how it's going to get fixed.
You should be.
Yeah, yeah. And so if we're struggling, we go, well then there's a problem with me. It's like, there's not a problem. This is
Hmm.
life. Learning how to navigate that. And like you said, community. I love that.
And I think that's
So
tied to like some of the worldview ideas that we have, right? So I think there's some central worldview ideas that kind of shape Gen Z. And I think one of them obviously is centered around their emotions. So you got the idea of empiricism, right? Which is a philosophical idea that you kind of get truth about reality through experimentation and feeling and those types of things, which I don't think is true, right? And then obviously there's just the fundamental idea that postmodern people are just more driven by how they feel in general, right? And so that's kind
Hmm.
of what we feel is kind of what we allow to drive our decision making, good or bad. And so, like you're saying, if I feel something negative because central to my worldview is how I feel, that means something's wrong with my existence. And that's not at
Yeah.
all true, because our emotions, we can't actually really control them. If you think about it, they come when they come and they go when they go. And so, but I can control how I respond to them.
Yeah.
I can't control how I react to them. And the interesting thing is we do that every day. Like every person has impulses and thoughts that are weird and that you're just like, yo, that's strange. I'm just gonna go ahead and let that one slide. You know what I'm saying? Like, but for whatever reason, there are certain emotions and impulses now that because of our culture and the things that we've been taught, I think we take a little bit more seriously than we should,
Yeah.
or we allow them to shape our existence more than we should, right?
Yeah. That's good. Let's take a turn. Let's go into more of that the reframe concept, contextualizing the gospel into where we are right now. Why do you think the gospel needs contextualizing? I mean, so some people say the gospel's the gospel, right? Why do you think it needs to be contextualized?
Yeah, I mean, I think once again, I mean, just read the Bible. You know what I mean? The Bible's written in a context, time and place in history.
Yeah.
It's ancient Near Eastern culture, and all those things have implications for how we understand it and how we understand it today. I mean, Jesus isn't telling parables about modern day Vegas or modern day Phoenix or modern, you know what I'm saying? He's telling parables that are in his time and place and context when he walks the earth. And if you understand those parables, they translate to what he has to say today. And so it's not
Yeah.
that we're changing the gospel, right? The gospel message remains the same. We fundamentally understand that Christ has died for the sins of the world, right? And whoever would put their hope and trust in him would be reconciled to the Father, would be in relationship with the triune God and uh, be in eternity with him. But more importantly, walk with him in the here and now and be transformed by his spirit, right?
Yeah.
And so, um, or not more importantly, but as important. And so I think what we need to recognize is that this generation communicates in a very specific type of way, right? Their world has shaped them in a particular way. So they see truth as social and not as authoritarian like we did. We understood truth from people in positions of authority who communicated that truth to us: doctors,
Yeah.
lawyers, professors, pastors, right? We trusted those people. They don't. They actually get truth from social media where everybody's opinion is valued and there's likes and comments and shares. And the thing that gets the most likes and comments and shares tends to be the thing that's most authoritative. And so
Uh-huh.
they have a very communal approach to what it means to learn what is true. And so I think that has application for how we engage them. And so for us,
Yeah.
we hang our hat on the conversational method as it pertains to youth ministry. We believe that kids want to be actively involved and participating in the conversations that are happening in their youth groups. And if that happens, you have a much better opportunity of sharing the gospel in a way that's relevant and clear to them and actually have them listen and like actually hear what you have to say. Because if they feel heard by you, they'll listen to you. And that's what's interesting about this generation. Like I said, they don't see the world the way we do. And I think it's
Hmm.
part of the reason why they always kind of approach us in a way that seems like they don't have respect for the position that we hold. Like they talk to you like they're equals to you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it can rub you the wrong way, but it's just because of the way that their world has been shaped. And so if we'll treat them that way in the youth ministry context, we'll actually have way more fruitful gospel conversations with them. And and the thing that I like about conversation too is like I don't have to guess, bro. Like I know what's going on. So I just ask questions. They tell me what's going on, and then I can give them answers pertaining to what it is that they're actively wrestling through at that moment, as opposed to I gotta prep this sermon and hope that students actually get something out of it.
Yeah. So the audience for the app is mainly young adults, teens. So when it comes to the contextualization of the gospel, right? What does that look like for let's say a Gen Z, a Gen A, they're in college, they're in high school, middle school, whatever it is, for them to live out a contextualized gospel. Do you know what I mean? Like, what does that look like for them when they're like trying to share the gospel with their friends, or trying to, how's that different from maybe in the past or just right now?
Yeah, I think for them, they've got to get better at asking questions too and creating a more collaborative environment. So like, ask your friends questions about their life, about spirituality, about like whatever and however. And the reason I say that is because usually if you're having deep, meaningful conversation with somebody, at some point, it is going to get to the transcendent religious question. It just always does.
Yeah.
If you're working your way backwards, no matter how long it takes to get there, you're going to get there. And so I think asking questions, having that conversation, and then, sharing your perspective, like, hey, I agree. Hey, I disagree. Here's why. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? I think that's a helpful, productive way to share the gospel with your friends. I think also, obviously, sharing your story, right? Like, people can't deny your story. So sharing your faith story with your friends and helping them understand, like, yo, this is how I came to faith in Christ. This is why I have a relationship with God, and allowing them to ask questions out of that too. But I think it's just got to be, I think we're too concerned with conversion being a moment in time instead of a process, right? So we want salvation to be this, hey, you said this prayer and now you're saved. Instead of this open dialogue, right? Like if we look at Matthew 28, what does Jesus say? Go therefore into the world to make disciples. He doesn't say make converts, right? And so once again, that can just take a bit of time. And so it can be ongoing conversation about the gospel, ongoing conversation about what it means to follow Jesus. And as you answer your friends' questions over time, as they come to church with you a couple times, they might make the decision like, yo, I really do want to follow the Lord.
Yeah, I want to highlight that for y'all that are watching. What he just said there is so important about not stressing yourself out about this moment of like, all right, I told them and now we're saying a prayer, but it's like, it's a conversation, and then a week may go by and it's another conversation. But you're living out the truth. You're living it out so they can see the truth. You're asking questions. You're having dialogue. They're getting closer. You're respecting them. They're respecting you. It's just this dialogue that happens, and the Holy Spirit just comes in and then starts stirring their heart again. You invite them to church. They get to see stuff. But then I would even say, you might want to know your stuff. You might want to be educated on what you believe. And as they ask questions, you may go, I don't know, I never thought about that. Let me go see if I can find out, because they're gonna have big questions that require thought out and big answers. And I mean, this is a big part of what we do here at the app and what we're trying to do here. But be somebody who's a learner so that your conversations can actually have some depth to them, and your story is important. But when they got questions, you need to have at least some kind of answer that would help out.
100% agree, bro.
Let's talk about the day and age we live in right now for a few minutes. So I feel like we live in a Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego kind of life right now, society, where it's like, here's the music, and that music is culture's message, and it's like, you need to bow down. You need to do. How would you say a Christian young person, what's it look like for them to respond the way Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did today? It's not a physical bowing, it's not a physical standing, but what's it look like for them to do that today?
That's good, bro. It's really good. Yeah, I think one of the challenges that we have is how do we intentionally push back against the rhythms of culture?
Join the wrestling.